is another Christmas day, and adherents of the Christian faith all over the world have today been celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. To mark this occasion, church services have been held across various denominations of Christendom, which has a global followership of 2.2 billion people. In Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has charged all Christian faithful, as well as other Nigerians of a non-Christian persuasion, to show love to one another as exemplified by Jesus Christ. In his Christmas message to the nation, the president described Christians as his best neighbors. He used the opportunity to solicit support for the downtrodden, who, he said, cannot afford to celebrate the Yuletide in a special way. In his words, President Buhari says, and I quote, "We must never lose sight of the symbiotic relationship between Christmas and hope, Jesus Christ and humility, Christianity and grace. In this season of love, joy, and peace, let us not fail to remember those who really wish to celebrate, but are constrained in one way or the other by reaching out to them." End of quote. Meanwhile, in the days leading up to the Christmas day, majority of Nigerians have been going through a lot, trying to shop for the festive period. The soaring prices of essential goods and services has ensured that millions will have a bleak Christmas. Petrol scarcity has also persisted, resulting in very high intrastate and interstate transportation fares. In its response to this situation, the Nigerian Labour Congress has lamented that Nigerians are currently going through dark times and called for urgent action from government. Father George Ehusani is recognized in Nigeria as a prominent moral voice and regular advocate for equity and justice that makes for peace, unity, and dialogue as realizable options for a prosperous rather than a functional nation. Welcome to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show. Father George Ehusani, good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Ruben, and thanks, Prof. It's good to be here.
Well, Merry Christmas. The first, you are a man of the cloth. Can you guide us through the essence of Christmas and what should be the priorities for everyone, Christian or not Christian, on this occasion?
Thank you. On the essence of Christmas, Isaiah's prophecy, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 2, one of the significant readings we take during this Christmas season. Verse 2 of Isaiah chapter 9 says, "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. And on those who had walked in the deep valley of darkness, a great light has shone." So, Christmas is about the emergence of light where there was darkness, the emergence of truth where there was falsehood, the triumph of justice where there was injustice, that the Son of God Most High took flesh and became man to combat the forces of darkness, the forces of evil, and triumph over them on the cross, so that we who have been victims of the reign of darkness may be free once again. The Son of God became man so that the children of men may become children of God. What you celebrate at Christmas is summarized in John chapter 3, verse 16. God so loved the world that he sent his only Son, that whoever believes in him may not perish, but have everlasting life. So what we celebrate in Christmas is that portentous event when God sent his Son to take flesh so as to redeem humanity from all the forces that have held humanity captive, including some of the forces that you listed during the introduction. The really very punitive kind of rulership we have had in this country, where the multitude of people are eking a very miserable living. I mean, in recent times, the National Bureau of Statistics released the statistics that at least 133 million Nigerians have slid into abject poverty. That is terrible in a country that is so abundantly blessed by God. This is part of the reign of darkness that Jesus Christ has come to combat. That is to say, a people suffering the way Nigerians are suffering. I mean, the last year, for example, has been one of the most difficult years in our nation's history. That we cannot sleep with both eyes closed. There is insecurity in the east, in the west, in the north, in the central part of Nigeria. Such massive insecurity. In the build-up to this Christmas, we still have several people, scores of people dying in southern Kaduna, and then all kinds of violence in eastern Nigeria, not to talk of the insurgency in the northeast that is still ongoing, and the banditry all over the place. We are celebrating the triumph of the Son of God, the triumph of the Prince of Peace in the midst of what is a moral equivalence of war, really. I mean, there is ongoing war in this country. The people are being oppressed. The people are being harassed daily by killer bandits who are demanding hundreds of millions of people from hundreds of millions of naira from poor people who are just struggling to make a living. This is a very difficult situation. Perhaps the same kind of situation that the Israelites found themselves when that night, the night of the first Christmas, they heard the song of the angels in Bethlehem. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace to men who have found God's favor. And we are praying that we in Nigeria today will find God's favor, that there will be a major intervention so as to turn our fortunes around. Because the kind of life we have lived in the last few years is not desirable. We are living like people who have been condemned to misery. Our affairs are being run. Those who superintend our affairs are not the first 11, are not the second 11, are not the third 11. I mean, we have some of the worst Nigerians who run our affairs from local government level to the national level. This is undesirable. People who have no idea of what leadership is all about. That leadership is passion for the common good. A lot of people who are running around desiring to run our affairs have no business near leadership because they have no concept of sacrificial love. A society where people are dying of poverty. People are dying in droves of insecurity. But those who say they lead us, they can amass a lot of wealth, send their children overseas for school, have houses in Dubai, in the UK, in the US, and then they surround themselves with gun-toting soldiers and policemen and so on to protect them while they leave the people that they are supposed to be taking care of. The people for whom they got elected, who are those who are supposed to ensure our security. They secure themselves and abandon the rest of us. Those who are supposed to ensure that we have food to eat, that the infrastructure is in place for us to have food to eat, to have hospitals to go to. They take care of their own health and abandon us to our illnesses and diseases. They take care of the schooling of their children and abandon, I mean, this year, 2022, we had the universities closed for 8 whole months. And it was as if nothing has happened. The leaders continued business as usual. I mean, I can't imagine in my lifetime that universities, public universities will be closed for 8 months and that the leaders continued business as usual, as if nothing was happening. And that we can treat academics so shabbily. And you are paying a professor 400,000, and then the people who are legislators and executives and directors in the ministry are taking millions home. And it just doesn't bother them. And I'm saying, no, what we have are not leaders. What we have are punitive overlords who have come to punish us. Whatever we have done, they have come to punish us. And it is time for us to use the message of Christmas to remind Nigerians, and particularly those who are Christians among our leaders, that, listen, God is going to intervene. The way he intervened before, he is going to intervene. And you better change your ways, otherwise you will be found on the wrong side of the equation.
Father.
I have constantly told people, and I said it today in my sermon, I said, it is in the course of nature, in the course of human evolution, and the evolution of all species, that when a particular species is overhunting and overexploiting the other species that they need for their very survival, natural selection will soon take place, and the predator will be taken out so that some measure of equilibrium will be restored.
Well,
so as we celebrate Christmas, yeah.
Please go ahead. You were going to say something. As we celebrate Christmas.
Yes, that the point is that those who are constantly smiling to the bank while the rest of Nigerians are suffering the way we are suffering, I warn them that, listen, it cannot continue like this. Either that the people wake up and take their country back, or if the people are too weak to take their country back, natural selection will take place. Nature will act on behalf of the poor who have been oppressed and take out the predator. Somehow, how, I don't know, but I know that it is going to happen. We are either going to be part of the change, active part of the change process that should happen in this country, or we will be victims of the change. I mean the elite, the economic and political and social elite who seem to be having these days as the best times in their life. I warn that things are about to change. You better position yourself to be part of the change. Otherwise, you'll be a victim of the change.
Well, Father George, I mean, the president sent out a Christmas message, and he said, look, in spite of what you have said, it seems to me, several advances have been made in the provision of infrastructure, in addressing security challenges, in addressing poverty, in giving Nigerian people hope, and that this is the time to rejoice and settle our differences. But the picture you have painted gives the impression that this is the time for us to worry about our circumstances. Are you saying that the president is wrong?
Of course. It is a time for, I mean, the president can say whatever he wants to say, but let him go to the motor park. If he can he walk through the motor park to ask the people there what they think about the situation? Can he go to the marketplace? Can he go to the farms around Abuja to ask what they think of the situation? I mean, he's protected, ensconced in Aso Villa, so he can say anything. But we who mix with the people, we know, we who are shepherds of our people and who mix with our sheep, we know that everyone is distressed. Many are angry. A lot of the violence all over the place today is part of the anger that is in the land. Perhaps it's not properly channeled, but it is an expression of the distress. There's been so much strain. There's been so much distress in our society. And unfortunately, the poor are taking it on one another. They are taking it on themselves rather than mobilize properly to have a change in their circumstance in a legitimate manner. The poor people are taking it on themselves. But a lot of the leaders are completely cut off from the people. They have no idea what people are going through. Like I said, if there is a bad road, if a lot of our roads are horrible, now what do the leaders do? The leaders buy heavy-duty SUVs and ride roughshod through those bad roads without feeling a thing. If there is no water supply, the leaders dig boreholes in their houses, and they have no feeling of the shortage of water. If there is no fuel, right now there is no fuel, no aviation fuel, no whatever, but it's not affecting the presidential fleet now. It's not affecting the private jets that many of them are using. There is no fuel, but we still see 10, 20, 30 cars taking the leaders to the airport, burning the scarce fuel. Can you imagine how people will feel if they are by the petrol station and they are there 12, 13, 14 hours queuing for fuel, and on the way to the airport, they see 30 vehicles running to the airport with one person who is about to travel? Under that kind of circumstance, there will be a groundswell of anger and resentment against that kind of leadership. The point is, Jesus has demonstrated to us, he was born in a manger, As Son of God, he could have been born in the biggest palace, but he was born in a manger. Jesus has demonstrated to us that leadership is about service. He says, you call me Lord, you call me Master, but see how I have stooped to wash your feet. You go and do the same. Now, Nigerians, whether we're Christian or Muslims, have a lot to learn from the exemplary action of leadership that Jesus Christ not only preached, but he lived. He gave us the best example in leadership as service, leadership as concern for the common good, commitment to the welfare of the common good, the good of everyone, not just my good, not the good of my family, not the good of my tribe, but the good of everyone. Now, Jesus has demonstrated all this. We are the ones that have refused to embrace the civilization of love that Jesus Christ exemplified. And that's why we are in the mess that we are in. But as I keep warning, this is not going to continue. We know what happened in France when the wife of Louis, which one of the Louis kings, the wife of Louis the king, said that when she was told, people were protesting that there was no bread. And she said, but they can eat cake now. Because she was completely oblivious. She was not in touch with the situation. She forgot that it is the same flour that is used for bread and cake. If they can't find bread, why don't they eat cake? Because she's not in touch with the desperate situation of the people. We know what happened to them when the revolution came. And I warn that the longer it takes for the Nigerian poor people to take their country back, the more terrible the consequences will be for those who today are smiling to the bank on account, those who are weaponizing poverty, those who are exploiting the ignorance and gullibility of the people for their own selfish gains. The longer it takes the people to take their country back, the worse the consequences will be. Because if we, like I said, if we do not work towards making the change by design, by deliberate effort, the change will happen upon us. And those who belong to the economic and political and religious elite, then will become victims of the change that must happen. So, as we move towards 2023 elections, my plea to all Nigerians that belong, like I said, belong to the elite class, all Nigerians that are both economic and religious and political elite, we are to sit down now, put our selfish interests on the side and say, how can Nigeria that is lying prostrate on the ground now, how can Nigeria rise? And what kind of changes do we require in the quality of persons that lead us? Because the history of this country is a history of a new form of feudalism. Actually, primitive feudalism. The Kabiyesi syndrome. The Rakadede syndrome, where those who occupy positions of power, political positions, leadership positions, they think that the people are subject to them. But that's not democracy. In a democracy, you don't have kings and subjects. You have fellow citizens. But those who have been running our affairs do not consider us as fellow citizens. Otherwise, you won't have a situation where some people are being paid 30,000 naira per month, and there are people who are earning millions, and they are supposed to be going to the same market and take care of their families. Something is seriously wrong. Such an unjust structure cannot survive for long. I have been warning about this for years, that this kind of islands of affluence amidst a sea of poverty will not survive for long. The sea of poverty will soon swallow the islands of affluence. So, as we celebrate Christmas, we are celebrating the triumph of justice, the triumph of truth, the triumph of light over darkness. We are celebrating the triumph of sacrificial leadership over pretentious kind of leadership. Over the selfishness and the looting and the roguery that goes on in the name of leadership in our country. Therefore, let us all look again at the life of Jesus. Let us look again at his conduct, the manner in which he conducted himself, and learn a thing or two from Jesus Christ. His life is what makes us call him the Prince of Peace. Because where there is justice, there will eventually be peace. where there is no justice, as is often the case in our society, we can't have hope for peace. So for the leaders to, I have listened to a lot of the Christmas messages of a lot of leaders, but it's all rhetoric, empty rhetoric, I call it, because there is no sincerity in their lives. There is definitely no sincerity. The level of pillage, of looting. I mean, I don't think we have ever had it so bad in our lives, where individuals are stealing 100 billion, individuals are stealing millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and those individuals are walking the streets. Something is really wrong. And somebody steals a goat across the road and is either lynched by the people, or if he's taken through the law, he gets 3 months or 6 months jail. And it happens within 1 week or 2 weeks. But the one who steals 100 billion can be walking the streets and never really go to jail. Something is wrong with that kind of convoluted system. We can't survive with that for long. Okay. That's why I am actually quite upset about the way we are mismanaging this country and saying, as we are celebrating Christmas, if we cannot learn a lesson or two from Jesus Christ, then our future is doomed.
On that note, I would like to thank you very much, Father George Ewusani, for joining us on the program today. The woman you were referring to earlier on is Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette, the wife of Louis XVI, King of France.
Yes, Louis XVI. Thank you very much.
Louis XVI, King of France and of Navarre in the 18th century, just before the French Revolution. Thank you very much, Father George Ewusani, for joining us.
Thank you very much, and God bless you. Prof, thank you for the work you all do, and God bless you.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.